Greetings, one and all, and welcome to Combat Critiques. In this installment, let's analyze the confrontation between the Toa Nuva and the Rahkshi in the film Mask of Light. As we do here, let's begin by assessing both sides' objective. The Toa here must defend Jaller and Takua as well as the Mask of Light. The two Matoran here are in possession of the mask and are seeking the seventh Toa to whom it belongs, as he will be instrumental in the defeat of Makuta, the Rahkshi's master. To counter this, Makuta has released 6 Rahkshi, and their objective is to obtain the mask and bring it back to him to prevent the seventh Toa from being found. Now, some may say that Makuta actually allowed himself to be defeated later, but that isn't being factored in here. But this means that the Toa, along with Jaller and Takua, are inconsequential to the Rahkshi's goal. They are just obstacles. If they stood aside, the Rahkshi might just ignore them, but that would mean that Makuta would become their overlord, so that's out of the question. But with the objectives laid out, let's get on to the fight.
Rahkshi! And I say run! Oh, now what?
So Takua and Jaller are alone for the moment, and unfortunately for them, 3 of the Rahkshi have found them. Yes, I am fully aware that the Rahkshi have names, but given that they are incredibly similar, and I cannot presume that everyone watching this video will know of or remember them, I am going to put their names on screen for a moment. After this, I will only refer to them by armor color. Now, this was a major point in the story where the series began to splinter information about the plot. There were the events of the film, the comics, the online game, and the books that covered the events transpiring during this story arc. That made it incredibly fragmented. In outside media, the Rahkshi fought the Toa numerous times and in various group compositions, but the film would have you believe that they only stuck to 2 groups of 3, those being brown, green, and blue, who were released first, then red, white, and black, who were sent out later. But it is the latter pair that found our 2 Matoran first. Now, Matoran are not built for combat, and so Takua and Jaller are monumentally outclassed here, leaving them no choice but to flee as fast as their stubby legs will carry them. But even more to their bad luck, the second group has also found them, leaving them in a scenario with no hope of success.
We're trapped, but not helpless.
Jaller even draws a weapon, and it is an unusual design seen nowhere else. Normally, members of the Guard were depicted with 2-pronged spears, making them bidents, similar to a trident. This weapon is much shorter and possesses a blade similar to an axe with an extremely prominent beard. I give you credit for wanting to go down swinging, Jaller, but you would be lucky to land a hit on these things, and even then, I doubt you would do much damage.
It's a lot of damage!
Toa! Great! You can get us out of here!
We are done running.
On a better note though, 3 of the Toa Nuva have arrived, being Tahu, Gali, and Lewa, who form a perimeter around the Matoran, though strangely here, Lewa is facing the completely wrong direction from either group of Rahkshi. Tahu declares that we are done running, but I would like to point out that in this film, you have been getting your own teeth handed to you by the Rahkshi at every turn. Yes, in other media, things were a bit more even, but exclusively in this film, the Toa were breaking even at best and getting beaten outright at worst. Now it's a 3v6, which are poor odds indeed. Each of you would need to take on a pair of Rahkshi at once, and that is no small feat.
Whoa! What's that?
But Kopaka, Pohatu, and Onua arrive as well, though I'm not sure how all of the Toa knew to head here in the first place. For that matter, the fact that they weren't escorting Takua and Jaller in the first place was odd. You could argue that the Rahkshi weren't around at the time, but even then, for an important mission, it's better to have protection and not need it than to need it and not have it. I would also like to point out that this is the only shot where Onua actually has his weapons. They disappear after this, and in general, characters don't use their weapons to strike each other in this film. I know that LEGO doesn't like violence, but it's strange that other media depicted things much darker than this film does. And given their appearance, I always imagined Onua's weapons to work similarly to chainsaws. Something like...
Brothers, we thought we lost you.
And you might have, if it weren't for our icy friend.
Gali reports that she thought Onua and Pohatu were goners, as the last time they'd been seen, they had been buried alive. Granted, if any two were going to survive that, it would be Toa that controlled earth and stone, respectively. A cave-in, barring it outright crushing them, shouldn't be as deadly for them as it would have been for the other four, though Onua reports that they were saved by Kopaka, and I have to wonder how and why that happened. Kopaka's mask grants him X-ray vision, seeing through terrain, so he could have spotted them, but why would they have needed his help? He controls ice, which would have been much less useful at digging them out than they would have themselves.
Now, as one! We will not be broken.
Three of the Rahkshi combine their abilities to fire a blast at the Toa, and Tahu uses his mask to shield them all. Now, I'm going to put up a list of the powers available to both sides here. The Toa not only have their elemental powers, but also those of the masks they wear. That gives them 12 powers in total. Now, not all of these will be applicable, but that's still an extensive list. Not only that, but they can grant the powers of their masks to their allies as well, meaning that all 6 of them have access to these abilities. The Rahkshi do not have elemental-based abilities, but they do have formidable powers nonetheless, and all have the ability to fly. These have all been color-coded for your convenience, letting you know at a glance which powers belong to which character, but almost none of these are used in the subsequent fight. Keep this list in mind, I'll be referencing it as we go along.
Wind fly! Sand twister!
Lewa makes the first move, creating a miniature tornado with his powers over air that snatches up 3 of the Rahkshi, who just sort of sit there and let it happen. They see it coming, but don't evade it at all, especially the blue one, who had the most time to react. Even though they have been caught in this, all of them can fly. It might take a moment, but accelerating would eventually allow them to break free of the whirlwind. Remember that the Rahkshi are not like the Toa and Matoran. Those beings have internal organs beneath their metallic exoskeleton. Rahkshi are entirely mechanical, piloted by worm-like creatures in their backs. Physical injuries won't truly harm the creature inside, allowing them to be far more durable in most cases. I know Toa follow the no-kill rule that happens in fiction, but damaging Rahkshi would not violate that. Gali then leaps down alone to confront the other trio, and the red Rahkshi clumsily winds up a swing that she easily avoids, and the white then follows up, again with a telegraphed strike that hits its comrade. What happened here? The Rahkshi were portrayed as being extremely competent before now, but here one comedically slaps the other down in a bungled attempt to strike Gali. They are selectively competent as the scene demands, it would seem.
Bam!
And fire!
Makes glass!
Tahu then uses his power over fire to heat the sand inside the tornado that Lewa has created, and it solidifies into glass. In reality, that sand wouldn't become glass at a uniform rate, and would likely make shards that would shatter against the Rahkshi's armor. This creates a prison for 3 of the Rahkshi, however, though I would like to mention that the brown Rahkshi possesses the ability to create explosions, and the blue one can cause things to disintegrate. Even if they cannot move, they should be able to escape this, and in so doing, free the green as well. That one possesses an ability listed as poison, though it works more like a venom. The catch is that it cannot do so at range, at least not without it piggybacking off of another that does possess ranged capabilities. This means that melee combat is ill-advised against it, along with the black one, which can absorb the energy and strength of an enemy in melee.
Back off!
Surprise.
Back off? What? Are you genuinely issuing a warning to these Rahkshi? I'm uncertain as to if they can actually comprehend anyone who isn't Makuta. Even if they could, they wouldn't do so, as their master's orders are the only directive they follow. You're just a hindrance to them achieving their goal. They will not concede defeat, but credit to you for trying to be diplomatic, Gali.
He'll find her! That's what he does! That's all he does! You can't stop him! He'll wait for you, reach down her throat, and pull her f***ing heart out!
The black and white Rahkshi rightly look at her like she's lost her mind before noticing Kopaka, and they just sort of lumber about to face him while completely forgetting about Gali. Not a good move to turn your backs to an opponent. These things were menacing before, but now they're chumps for some reason.
Rahkshi! Leave the heavy lifting to me!
Then Pohatu jumps in on this fandango and throws his claws, which lock around the wrists of the pair. Are these their get-along cuffs? Are you going to turn this car around if they don't stop arguing? Onua then creates several boulders, which isn't his element. His is earth, like soil and dirt. Stone is Pohatu's thing. I know it took my stupid child brain quite some time to figure that out back in the day, but this is a bizarre inaccuracy.
Same, but different.
Lava!
Tahu then superheats this rock as it drops onto the pair of Rahkshi, which turns it into lava. Now, that can range from 1,300 to 2,200 degrees Fahrenheit, or 700 to 1,200 Celsius if you use that outlandish system, but it would seem that the Rahkshi armor can withstand such temperatures, as the pair are merely restrained by this rather than turned into vapor. Pohatu's claws wouldn't seem to be as lucky, as it's clear that the two have separated their hands. I guess the claws either fell off or were reduced to atoms.
Gone. Reduced to atoms.
Water!
And ice.
Gali then applies water to the lava, which would cool it down back into igneous rock, and Kopaka then freezes it, rendering these two incapacitated. They just sort of took it, but well done, Toa. Except... The red Rahkshi has recovered and is still trying to take the mask. The Toa even witnessed this as Jaller and Takua run for their lives. Remember how I said that the Toa had about 12 powers to work with between the 6 of them? Well, one of those is super speed, courtesy of Pohatu's mask. This means that surely just one shouldn't be a problem, right? They'll just zoom up there and batter it down, no problem. The other 5 are out of commission, so this will be a piece of cake.
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong.
Takua is then struck by the Rahkshi's fear power, paralyzing him in place. Now, fear will typically create a fight or flight response, which most people are aware of, but sometimes it can cause a third response, and that is to freeze. This Rahkshi's power seems tuned to cause that third reaction. Because imagine if you're confronted with something dangerous. Your body will flood with adrenaline, and so you'll be prompted to either fight the danger, flee from it, or sometimes your body will simply lock up in fear. That third reaction is almost always the worst option, but it does happen. Some hypothesize that this response occurs when the person perceives the danger as too great to fight, and no escape route is present. So the body locks up in an attempt to go unnoticed or seem like no threat to the danger. Jaller witnesses this and rushes to intercept the Rahkshi as it moves to strike Takua down, hugging its staff and being hit with the full blast of its power for several seconds before being thrown away. And only now do we see Gali and Pohatu moving to engage. Excuse me? What took you so long? We had a shot of you seeing what was going on, and you're only now getting here? But Jaller is now dead. Remember that while they're machines on the outside, these beings do have organ systems underneath, as they need to breathe and other such things. It's possible to be scared to death, as it can essentially cause your body to work itself too hard to a fatal degree. Heart attacks or strokes can occur this way. While it's incredibly uncommon in reality, dealing with a power that directly causes fear and being exposed to it directly for such a period probably was enough to do Jaller in. But Takua dons the Mask of Light and transforms into a Toa himself, revealing that he was the Toa that they had been seeking. He then proceeds to blast the red Rahkshi exactly once, which downs it and ends the fight. So that concludes this confrontation. Unfortunately, the Rahkshi just sort of stood around and waited to be dropped, and then the Toa had the slowest reaction time ever seen, which caused the death of Jaller. The competence of both sides in the film waffled back and forth, and I suspect it was because LEGO didn't want there to be too much overt violence, which they didn't seem to restrict as much in other media. I decided to cover this scene as I had been looking forward to the fan-made game, Masks of Power, that was nearing completion not long ago, until LEGO decided to shut it down, after having been aware and unbothered by its existence for 8 years, I believe. So some executive decided to shut it down, despite the developers making no money from it and crediting suing their company for the IP. So now the company will continue to squat on it while simultaneously shoving people's faces in the mud whom they had given their grace prior. Despicable. But what did you think of this fight? I personally would have preferred if the film had shaved off some time from other scenes to make this a longer confrontation, where all participants could have utilized everything they brought to the table instead of being so one-sided due to the Rahkshi being nerfed for the plot. The flash animations way back when did the characters much more justice, and I had hoped to see something akin to those. But that's just my 2 cents. What did you think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, leave a like on this video if you're so inclined, and subscribe to see more. I would like to thank you for watching, and may you all have a weapon in each hand.